Brahmachari Soham Chaitanya is going to speak a few words. I'll make a brief introduction of Brahmachari Soham Chaitanya. Was born in a spiritual family devoted to Chinmaya Mission. The opportunity to listen to satsangs from various Swaminis and Brahmacharinis introduced him to spirituality from a very young age. As an engineer by background, Sohamji worked as a research engineer in Colorado after graduating with a master's degree from the University of California, Berkeley. Listening to the Bhagavad Gita discourses by Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmayanandaji and Ramayana courses by Puja Guruji Swami Tejamayanandaji brought him to Sandipani Sadhanalaya in Mumbai. He completed the 17th Vedanta course under the guidance of Puja Swami Sarupanandaji under the tutelage of Puja Swami Bodhatmanandaji. Prior to joining Sandipani in 2017, Sohamji served as Chinmaya Mission centers in San Jose, California and Los Angeles, California for 5 years, facilitating youth and adult study groups. Sohamji loves playing the harmonium, singing bhajans, and dwelling on the scriptures which talk about the nature of happiness. Sohamji is very easy to approach and has always graced to enlighten us about Bhagavan's teaching. I request pranams to you, Swamiji. Please, you can talk now.
Thank you, Mohanji. Hari Om. Mohanji, are you able to hear me well?
Very well, Swamiji. Very well. Thank you.
Hari Om.
Pranam.
Thank you for that introduction, and Hari Om. Namaste to all of you. We remember Bhagavan and invoke Bhagavan's grace on Bhagavan's Aradhana day. We'll start with a short prayer. Om. 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 Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahano Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahe, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam. Namami Chinmayam Devam Satkurum Brahmavitvaram. Satkurum Brahmavitvaram. Hari Om, everyone. It was a joy spending time with all of you last year around the same time. We had discussed a few teachings of Bhagavan, and it gives me an opportunity to look at our own scriptures and then look at some examples, some analogy, or the writings of Bhagavan, and just come to appreciate how Bhagavan has simplified different teachings for us so that we can internalize these teachings. Today also happens to be Sri Ramanavami. In some places it is today. Ramnavami, Sri Ramanavami greetings to all of you. One of the texts which is very popular as the form of Ramayana is Sri Ramcharitmanas. In that text, the composer, Goswami Tulsidas Ji, he gives an example and he says, saints are like this. To explain nature of saint, he says, Veda Purana Udadi Ghana Sadhu. Udadi means ocean. So Vedas and Puranas, different Upanishads, different Vedas, they are so voluminous. Puranas, there are 18 different Puranas, and each one has shlokas in tens of thousands. Srimad Bhagavatam itself has around 18,000 shlokas. So they're very vast. And for an ordinary person to study that becomes little difficult. So Goswami Tulsidas Ji says, the Vedas and Puranas are like the ocean. And saints, they are like clouds. Ghana sadhu. What does a cloud do? It takes the water from the ocean and to the city that we live in. It brings fresh water, pure water. So that water, which was difficult for me to drink directly in the form of the salty water from the ocean, cloud makes sure that I'm able to quench my thirst by converting that water into pure water and at the same time bringing it to where I am. So Tulsidas Ji says, all saints and sages, they are like the clouds. And the Vedas which are there, they are like the vast ocean. They have a lot of knowledge, just like ocean has a lot of water. But if I'm thirsty, I cannot directly quench my thirst from that water. So he says, we need saints like Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi Ji, Puja Gurudev, Swami Vivekanand Ji. When I say Puja Gurudev, it is Swami Chinmaya Ji. All of them, what they did was, they themselves were seeing the truth. And so that we can also start our journey, they brought those teachings to where we are. So today what we'll try to do is take some teachings from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And in particular, I thought of focusing on chapter 6 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which is a very beautiful chapter on meditation. And as we see this chapter, we will look at different quotations from Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi Ji, which will help us understand Bhagavad Gita. The insight that some examples, some writings of Bhagavan, insights that it will help us immensely to appreciate the Bhagavad Gita verses in a deeper way. Before we go there, we should have some background or introduction on who is the seeker who wants to meditate. Because nowadays there are different types of meditation, different reasons why people want to meditate. It is helpful to know what is the Shastriya perspective, scriptural purpose for meditation. So this is a person who has analyzed life very carefully. The seeker over here is someone who has analyzed life very carefully. He has lived a righteous life. He has lived a life of dharma, done his duties towards his family, towards work, towards parents. Having done all this, his mind becomes pure. And one sign of purity of the mind is the ego becomes a burden. One sign of purity of the mind is it seeks something higher. Now, in spite of that ego being a very beautiful ego, which has been polished through karma yoga, polished through dharmic life, this sadhaka feels there is something more that I need to seek. And his first introduction to the spiritual path happens through a guru. And he sees his guru as an embodiment of perfection where he wants to reach. He looks at, it might even be a picture of the guru. The serenity, the peace that they embody in their life, disciple feels, I also want to attain it. whenever we see Bhagwan's picture also, this is one very striking feature which anybody will notice. Even those who are from different religions, different faith, one thing they will notice is the peace and calmness and the bliss which is embodied as Bhagwan. I'm not saying Bhagwan embodying bliss, bliss which has embodied itself as Bhagwan. When we talk of Bhagwan Shiva also we say, Shanta Rasa, if it takes a physical form, that would be Bhagwan Shiva. Peace, if it decides to become embodied, the name we will give to that peace is Bhagwan Shiva. Like that, if bliss were to become embodied, that is Bhagavan. So when a seeker, when a sadhaka sees the embodiment of Guru in that form, he gets inspired to walk this path. And what he notices is also that he has gained several things in life, but in spite of having everything, he cannot say for sure that my discontentment has gone for good. My sorrows have ended for good, and I am happy without any reason and eternally happy. Not time-bound happiness. Not that happiness which I'm afraid of losing, or that sorrow which I'm afraid of coming back. So this puts him on a new quest. This puts him on a new journey where he appreciates that I've gained several things, but there is something more that I still need to gain. We should note one thing here, that a student of Vedanta is not somebody who has escaped life. It is somebody who has lived a very good life. He is living a very good life. And the result of that dharmic life is he gets this quest for self-enquiry. Dharmate birati jogate jnana. Goswami Tulsidashi says, if you live a dharmic life, the result of that dharmic life is we will get desire for self-knowledge. And that self-knowledge will take us towards liberation. In Upanishads, there are some examples given to show these type of seekers. Who is a fit student of Vedanta? There is one Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad. Bhagavan quotes it in several places. The student there is Naradji. And the teachers are Sanat Kumaras. Naradji comes to Sanat Kumaras and he makes a list of the types of knowledge that he has gained. And if you read the list, it comes to around 21 plus different types of knowledge. He has gained knowledge about astronomy, astrology, mathematics, debate, logic, everything. But he comes to Sanat Kumaras and says, my sorrows have not ended. I know all these things, but my sorrows have not ended. Sanat Kumaras say, what you know is only words. What should be known is yet to be known by you. If Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi ji would have answered Narad ji, in other places Bhagavan writes, knowing different things without knowing oneself, that knowledge will always be incomplete. And what is the sign of incomplete knowledge? It will not remove my discontent. And the knowledge that Sanat Kumaras give Naradji is absolute happiness is only in infinitude. Whatever is not infinite, in some way it is inferior. Whatever is not infinite, in some way it is inferior. Therefore, O sadhaka, strive to cultivate the desire for self-knowledge and come to recognize oneself as infinite. This is his beginning part of the journey. Having lived a good life, a sadhaka, a seeker, a dharmic person, noble person, he gets this desire for self-knowledge. In Mundaka Upanishad, knowledge of material world is called as aparavidya. And knowledge of the self, devoid of ego, devoid of mind, is called as paravidya. What is the difference between aparavidya and paravidya? There are many points which are different. For example, one point would be aparavidya increases our standard of living or standard of life, whatever you call it. We can have better comforts, we can have better things, either for ourselves or for others also we can build. That is part of aparavidya. What is paravidya? Paravidya teaches us what is the supreme-most purpose of life. What is life? I see life in different beings. Is it different lives or is it one life expressing us all? That knowledge we get through paravidya. In aparavidya, individuality is protected. The ego is kept as it is. And in aparavidya, our nature is revealed devoid of ego. So what we are studying in Upanishads, what we are studying in Vedanta is paravidya, higher knowledge, which leads us to our own true nature. It helps us understand ourselves first and understand it devoid of mind, devoid of all conditionings. That unconditioned existence is where this knowledge leads us to. Now, if one is interested in walking this path, one is inspired to walk this path, there are different steps. It's a systematic way by which we can go towards the self. Because in one way, it looks very easy. But when we start walking it, when we start walking the path, the goal looks out of sight. In our scriptures, one example is given. If you look at a distant mountain, the mountain looks very close by. But when you start walking towards that mountain, suddenly you lose sight of that mountain. A village comes or some new city comes. So unless we have proper directions, it is difficult to reach our goal correctly. So here also, when we say we want self-abidance, there are 3 steps which are given to us, and they're very systematic, how we can go towards the self-abidance. So we will look at the 3 steps, and the third one we will focus on, the third step. Step number 1 is Shravanam. Shravanam means listening to the teachings of Upanishads. Now, who is listening to this teaching? Based on that, the efficacy of the teaching will be decided. If it's this student who has prepared himself well, has a peaceful mind, calm mind, one who has lived a very good life, dharmic life, In Vedanta's term, we say one who has sadhana chatushtaya, fourfold qualifications, like desire for liberation, ability to discern, dispassion, and mind is relatively quiet. Such a student, when he listens, that student will get the essence of what is being told to him. Now, Upanishads might have several mantras. They might talk about different things. But what is that one message that they want to give us? That one message is called as Mahavakya. Mahavakya, the great statement. What is Mahavakya? Mahavakya is that which will reveal to us what is our essential nature. One example of Mahavakya is Tat Tvam Asi. Essential nature of God and your essential nature is one and the same. So God's essential nature is consciousness, and Mahavakya says our essential nature is also consciousness. So in and through his entire Upanishad journey, in and through his entire listening, studying scriptures, he was able to grasp the main message. See, before studying scriptures, what was his understanding? I'm this person. If you were to ask him, introduce yourself. Transactional introduction, we will need a lot of data about body, place, where we were born, what happened. Those are in one place. But if we were to truly introduce ourselves from our understanding, we would have said, I am this body, I was born in this place, now I'm of this age. Sometimes in the immigration or some other place, they ask even more details, your height, your weight, how you look. Now that was his understanding of I. And after doing Shravanam, what did Upanishads tell him? That these are your conditionings. Your essential nature is infinite consciousness. This message he was able to grasp. Now, how did Upanishads reveal this truth to him? Because if you were to point out to some object, it's very easy. So, for example, if you want to point out to this watch, you can tell the name of the watch. You can tell the brand of the watch, what type of belt it has, and so on. And you can indicate it. So out of several items, if I want you to look at the watch, I can indicate it because it has some attributes. Now just think about it. Our Upanishads want us to think, shift attention to the self, which has no attributes. So how are they going to point out that truth, which is attributeless? If somebody is doing some action, you can point out that person through his action. If let's say somebody is driving a car, you can say, call the driver. So driver is a person who is doing the action of driving, and you can indicate that person through his action of driving. If somebody is singing, you can say, call the singer. Somebody is cooking, you can say, call the cook. But for consciousness, for the self, there is no action also. There are no attributes and there is no action. So how are you going to indicate such an entity which doesn't have attributes, doesn't have actions? So our Upanishads use a very special technique. And that technique is called as superimposition and desuperimposition. By superimposing some attributes which are not real, by superimposing some unreal attributes, they shift our attention to the self. And having shifted the attention there, they say now don't pay attention to the attributes. Self is there all the time, but our attention is not there. So they brought some attributes, shifted our attention to the self, and then they said remove the attributes. This technique is called as superimposition and desuperimposition. I'll give a few examples. Hopefully that will help us appreciate this concept. Suppose somebody tells us, pay attention to space. Now, space to pay attention is difficult. One is it is infinite, and I don't know where to start. Then somebody says, okay, pay attention to this pot. I say, yes, pot, I know. It has a shape, it has a name. Okay, first step is pay attention to pot. Step number 2, pay attention to pot space, the space in the pot. So from pot, to shift attention to pot space is easier. Now step number 3 is let go of the pot, just remain with space. Now the question is, while I was paying attention to pot, space was there. While I paid attention to pot space, space was still infinite. And while I dropped the pot, space is the same infinite entity. So if it was infinite, why did I have to take support of pot? If space was there all the time, why did I need the support of pot? I needed support of pot because my attention was not on space. And it is easier to shift attention to space using the conditioning of pot. Same with light also. If somebody says, pay attention to light. Now light is everywhere, but I don't know where to start and how to pay attention to light. So one technique is, if you are told, pay attention to my hand first. Pay attention to the hand. Step number 2, light is that which is getting reflected from the hand. If there was no light, my hand could not be seen. So that which is making this hand known is the light. But really speaking, there is no relationship between light and hand. So now you can let go of the hand and just pay attention to that light, which is present all the time. If these examples are clear, let us apply it to the self. Our sense organs, we are very familiar with. I know my eyes are able to see, my ears are able to hear, I'm able to speak, hands are moving. So Vedanta will say, Upanishads will say, first pay attention to sense organs. Step number 1. Step number 2, think about who enlivens these sense organs. Who enlivens these sense organs? Because they are all inert. Sense organs by themselves cannot function. Mind by itself cannot function. So through sense organs, they point out consciousness. Consciousness is that which enlivens all my sense organs. Don't drop sense organs directly, because we'll keep searching for consciousness otherwise. Step number 1 is recognize sense organs. Step number 2 is shift attention to consciousness as enlivener of sense organs. Then step number 3, understand sense organs to be unreal. Drop sense organs, shift attention to that self, which is devoid of sense organs. Same 3 steps we can apply even for thoughts and mind. Step number 1 is become aware of thoughts. Because generally, we are aware of objects through thought. It takes a lot of sadhana to make thoughts as an object. What I mean is, see, if I have to see this pen, I need a thought of this pen. Zoom is not recognizing my pen here. If I have to see this pen, then I need a thought of this pen. So what is the object here? Object is pen. But if I have to make my thought itself as an object, without any external thought, external objects, if I have to only make my thought as an object, that requires greater attention. I cannot be doing several things and doing this. Then second step is recognize consciousness as witness of thoughts. You see, what are we doing here? Taking the conditioning of thought and shifting attention to consciousness. There is no other illuminator. It is a self alone which knows and illumines thoughts. Then step number 3 is quieten the thoughts. Let go of thoughts. What remains is consciousness. So this is the technique which is pointed out in Upanishads. The technical word for this is adhyaropa apavada. Superimposition, desuperimposition. So whenever Upanishads talk about mind, when they talk about how did this body come into being, they're really not interested in talking about mind and body. What they're interested in talking about is the illuminator of mind and body. So through conditioning of body and mind, we shift attention to conditioned consciousness. And the third step is when we understand consciousness alone is real, conditionings are unreal. This is the technique that our Upanishads use. Mahavakya, when it starts working in our life, that is called as Brahmachari Vritti. Mahavakya is there in Upanishad. You are Brahman, you are infinite. That sentence is there in Upanishad. When I hear that in Shravanam, and it actually starts working for me, when I'm able to dissociate from my own conditionings, that vritti is called as Brahmachari Vritti. It burns all other conditionings and also burns itself. Just like during Holi day, we take one wooden stick. Holi is a festival of colors where we burn different wooden structures, and it's a symbolic way of burning all our negative tendencies. So we take a wooden stick and burn other wood, and finally put that wooden stick into the fire. In the same way, Brahmachari Vritti falsifies all other conditionings. So it takes us from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. From only conditionings to conditioned consciousness, step number 2. Step number 3, unconditioned consciousness. And that thought also doesn't remain. Brahmachari Vritti also doesn't remain. What remains is the self alone. That is the beauty of Shravanam. When a noble person, dharmic person, one who is endowed with fourfold qualifications, that person does Shravanam, he gets knowledge in this way. That I am this self, I am not these conditionings. Now, even though he has gained this knowledge, there might be some doubts which are still lingering. Those doubts get resolved through Mananam. doubts are called as samshaya. Sanskrit words are very beautiful. Samshaya, if you take the etymological meaning, what it means is samyak sherate iti samshaya. Means that which puts knowledge to sleep. That is the definition of a doubt. Means we might have gained a lot of knowledge, but if our knowledge is ridden with doubts, that knowledge is as though not useful to me. Let's say I got a lot of knowledge of Ayurveda, but I have my own doubts about how Ayurveda approaches, health and well-being. In spite of knowing many things, I might not be able to benefit from it. So Mananam, what it does is, on our own, when we spend time reflecting upon what we have heard, all our doubts are removed. With lot of reverence, when we try to understand these teachings, over a period of time, they become our natural way of thinking. That is the beauty of Mananam. One thing to notice, in Shravanam, lot of power comes through the tapasya done by our Guru. All we have to do is go with a pure mind, clean mind, calm mind, and listen. But what we are hearing is not in our hands. That comes from our Guru. But in Mananam, we are independent. In Mananam, we don't have a lot of other support. We have to think on our own. So this is where our commitment to the truth, our sincere quest, the burning desire to know it, abide in it, that will make sure that our Mananam is healthy. Now somebody has understood I am consciousness through Shravanam. He has already reflected upon it through Mananam. Now comes the third step, which is called as Nididhyasana. Nididhyasanam is a very beautiful technique of, in simple words, it is meditation. But it's a technique of erasing our habitual notions. In certain things we have been doing for so long that even after knowing something new, we keep doing the same old thing. You must have noticed this. If you change your desk at work, from one place you are moved to a different location. Sometimes subconsciously, we will go to our old location. And it's not that I don't know that my place has changed. I'm sitting in a new location now. It is just our habitual notions that our mind is used to doing certain things and it will do it without knowing. Same thing is for self-knowledge. I am this ego is a habitual notion we have been carrying, not in the past few years, but over several lifespans. Because if we realize this, that I'm not the ego, there is no more rebirth. The very fact that we are having embodied existence means that doership was not completely erased in the past. So Nididhyasanam is a very focused technique for somebody who has lived a good life, done Shravanam, clarified doubts through Mananam. Now he just wants to keep his mind on the truth. He has no questions about how I am consciousness, how I am not this mind, how I am not this body. He's already resolved them through Shravanam and Mananam. So in Nididhyasanam, he is paying attention to the truth without any noise. Nowadays, we have noise cancelling headphones, right? Now, a song you can play on a regular tape recorder or laptop speaker also. But why do we enjoy it more when we are listening to it in noise cancelling? because other noise is cut. Ambient noise is not there. So Nididhyasanam is that technique where the chatter of the mind, ambient noise, is cut, and we are able to pay attention to the self exclusively. That is the third step in self-abidance, also called as Druda Aparoksha Jnanam. Aparoksha means understanding it as one's own nature. Druda Aparoksha means firm knowledge of what is my true nature. In Shravanam, we get Aparoksha Jnanam. In Shravanam, we come to know I am the self. But it is not very firm sometimes. If it's a highly qualified student, direct Shravanam gives moksha. But let's say we have some erroneous tendencies, habitual notions. We will keep falling back to old habits. So this is the technique of meditation, which is pointed out in 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavan very beautifully, Bhagavan Krishna, I think we can use Bhagavan interchangeably also now, because both teachings will come together. Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi and Bhagavan Krishna. Bhagavan Krishna divides the whole chapter into few topics. First topic, he says, what should be the lifestyle of a meditator? If somebody is meditating 1 hour per day, how that person spends his other 23 hours will decide the efficacy of that 1 hour meditation. What he does before meditation, what he does after meditation. And in this, Bhagavan Krishna includes the key factors are the food that we eat, moderation in that food, the activities that we do in our life. That is the second one. Third one is exercise, moderation in exercise. And last topic he mentions is moderation in sleep. Bhagavan says it's very simple. Just make sure you don't sway to extremes. Don't sway to one extreme of overeating or over fasting, feasting or fasting. He says don't go to either extreme. Then when it comes to work, don't become inactive. At the same time, don't become restless also. Don't take up more than what you can actually do. Third, he says exercise. Make sure that body is healthy and flexible. Then alone we can sit to meditate. Imagine if you are sitting for meditation and if there is a backache or a toothache. One commentator, he writes, Vedanta will become Vedanta. Vedanta is something that we should study, but Vedanta means the toothache which is there. It will keep reminding us of something. So that should not be there. Body should be something which doesn't demand attention. And the last one is sleep. Somebody who oversleeps or doesn't sleep at all, that will not help us in meditation. So this is the lifestyle of a meditator. And in general, one of the unique quality he has is he lives a very devoted life and doesn't have strong insistence on anything in this world. He might have preferences, but no strong insistence. That is how Bhagavan Krishna introduces the meditator. He says, if you want to meditate, try to live life in this way. Don't insist upon things. Different types of people are there. The one who is samabuddhi, one who is equanimous amongst different personalities. Bhagavan says that person will be a successful meditator. It's an elaborate topic, but I'm just picking few relevant points from these topics. Okay, so the first one was lifestyle of a meditator. Second is some preparations for meditation. There are outer and inner preparations. Outer preparation is easy. Anybody can do it, and there are plenty of resources available now. So Bhagavan says, find a solitary place, quiet place. Don't go out into a very busy place where several people are there and try to meditate. Our meditation place is a very sacred spot. So much so that wherever we do regular meditation, it will have its own vibrations. These vibrations we can feel more when we visit a place where some great Mahatma has done tapasya. I'm sure all of us have visited some place where just going there made us peaceful. So that is the power of place. So Bhagavan says, protect that place at any cost. Let it not be different spots every time. One single place, which is solitary and clean, and a comfortable seat for meditation. Let it not be uncomfortable. If you are able to sit cross-legged, well and good. It just helps the blood circulation better. Means blood circulation to the upper part of the body is better. But if you are unable to sit cross-legged, then we can put our legs down, sit on a chair, whatever is a comfortable posture. Body should not demand attention. And how to sit? We should try to sit straight. Being mindful of posture is the first step before we start becoming mindful of our mind. When I know how my body is, I'll be able to notice how my mind is. And we'll notice if you're not alert, very quickly the posture changes. From an exclamation mark, it becomes a question mark. So that we have to pay attention and make sure our body is straight. Having done that, there are some inner preparations. The most important inner preparation, Bhagavan Krishna points out, is our mind should be a cheerful mind. Prashantatma. It's a great quality developed by a meditator. It is not that his life doesn't have any challenges or any problems, but he has learned to remain 2 inches above his day-to-day problems. His devotion is so ripened, he says, whatever I need in my transactional life, my Bhagavan will take care. So at least for this time of meditation, duration of meditation, I should sit down with a cheerful mind. By letting go of all my worries and anxieties, training this mind over a period of time to be like this. Those who are artists, musicians, dancers, they share this thing with me, that they have been trained in such a way that when they sit down to perform, their personal life is as though erased. Whatever might be going, it might be a joyous moment or some downs in life. None of that bothers that seeker during this sitting of meditation. During the sitting of meditation, that is a unique quality called as udasina. Udasina means ut asin. Slightly above his everyday life, he is seated. So that is the inner preparation. Now this cannot be given to us. This cannot be purchased. I can decide the seat. I can decide the type of cushion, how the lighting should be, incense, everything I can buy and purchase. But whether I'll be able to sit down with a cheerful mind, whether I'll be able to sit down with a calm and peaceful mind, this is the inner wealth of a seeker. Outer things can be purchased through material wealth. If I have to purchase peace of mind, What I need is inner wealth. So we saw what is his lifestyle, what is the preparation, outer preparation, inner preparation. Now comes the third topic, which is the technique of meditation itself. So once I'm sitting on the seat of meditation, sitting at the seat of meditation, what should I be doing next? Now, a little bit I can do some pranayama. Prana Vikshana. Upadeshasara, Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi says, if I'm able to observe my breath, deep breathing, mind will become quieter. Between mind and prana, mind and breath, breathing is easier to observe and control. And because both are related, both are two branches of the same tree, if I hold on to one, the other branch comes along with it. So if I hold on to the breathing, make my breathing rhythmic and quiet and more deep and slow, my thoughts will quieten down, thoughts will slow down. So that is the first part in the technique of meditation. It is just quieten the mind. But remember, our end goal is not to meditate upon prana. What is our object of meditation? Self, not the breath. Observing the breath is just a technique to quieten the mind. Now, the next part of meditation will be very easy for somebody who has done thorough Shravana. Remember the three steps: Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasana. The efficacy of Nididhyasanam, the technique part of it, depends upon how well I have done Shravanam and Mananam. So what were the three steps in Shravanam? First, pay attention to conditioning. Second step, from conditioning, shift attention to conditioned consciousness. And third step, let go of the conditionings, understand the falsity of conditionings, and know the self alone to be real. Simple three steps. Now, which conditioning shall we take? Let's take the mind. Step number one, become aware of thoughts. We don't have to create thoughts. Thoughts will just come. Now, once we become aware of thought, making sure that we don't judge those thoughts or follow those thoughts. This very subconsciously happens with us. Just imagine today, Sunday evening, if you're sitting outside, one thought will come and you'll start thinking about it. That one thought will lead to another thought, second to third, third to fourth. And before we know, we are somewhere else. So in meditation, the step when they say pay attention to thoughts, they're not saying pay attention to chain of thoughts. What they're telling is just notice that these thoughts are flowing by. Just like river keeps flowing effortlessly, like that these thoughts keep flowing. Step number two, from thoughts, recognize the illuminator of thoughts. Now, this illuminator of thought is not somebody else. It is me, myself. So I am observing these thoughts. What is the conditioning here? Conditioning is thought. What is conditioned consciousness? The illuminator of thought. Then step number three is quieten the thoughts or understand the falsity of this mind. There is no relation between consciousness and mind, really speaking. Just like there is no relation between space and pot. But that pot was helpful for me to shift attention to space. Similarly, the mind will be helpful for me to shift attention to the self. Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi gives a very beautiful metaphor for this. The same step, mind paying attention to illuminator of thoughts, and after that, letting go of the mind. Is it just like a camphor burns? It gives light, but finally it burns itself. So that camphor is the mind. So step number 1 is to recognize the self through the mind. Step number 2, that mind to dissolve itself. Now, once this state is attained through lot of practice, regularity in meditation, reverence in meditation, and for a long time, this practice is sustained. What comes with this is a recognition of some unsurpassed bliss. Now, there's a blissful state minus mind, blissful state minus any conditionings. Minus mind means what? State of bliss without becoming an experiencer. Because the moment I'm saying I'm experiencing bliss, that means what? Some amount of ego has already silently, secretly creeped in. Because the one who is experiencer is the ego. And what we are trying to negate is the ego and the mind. So Bhagavan says, abide in that bliss, which is the nature of the self. That self which is devoid of conditionings itself is bliss. Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi gives an example of gyroscope. He says a gyroscope, when it is moving very quickly, a spin top, when it is moving very quickly, it looks as though it is stationary. But inside there is a lot of activity going on. So he says a knower of the self, a Brahmajnani, is sporting with the self. Externally, he might be very quiet. But at the seat of meditation, it's a vibrant joy which is attained by falsifying ego, mind, and all other conditionings, and knowing that self alone to be the reality. Having attained this step, Bhagavan says, don't initiate any other thought. Don't suddenly feel ecstatic that maybe I'm reaching that state. That anxiety of reaching there will trigger more thoughts. He says, if you are there, just allow that grace, allow Bhagavan to take care of the rest. Any movement from the side of the mind and ego means it will push us out from that state. It's like telling somebody, I'll be standing nearby. After you go to sleep, please tell me. After you go to sleep, tell me that you have fallen asleep. He said that is not possible. If he's saying something after falling asleep, that means he has not fallen asleep. That's exactly like saying something after you have seen the self. Saying something about reaching the self after having reached the self. He said one need not do that. And any other thought also which might creep in, Bhagavan says, whiten it. Don't allow it to disturb. Then finally, the last topic that Bhagavan takes up in 6th chapter is that of obstacles in meditation. Arjuna asks a question where he says, Bhagavan, your meditation technique is wonderful. I didn't know these techniques were there. All I have learned. Arjuna says to Bhagavan, but in the same breath he says, Bhagavan, I think you don't know my mind. I did not know your technique, but looks like you don't know my mind. It is so restless, it cannot stay in one place. It is easier to control a tornado or a storm than to control my mind. It's obstinate and it tires me down. And I know I don't need such a mind, but what can I do? Bhagavan acknowledges first. Oh Arjuna, what you are saying is very true. It's a very good analysis of your own mind, and I'm glad you're doing it. Because unless we recognize a problem, we can never solve it. A problem, I will never find a solution for that problem. So Bhagavan congratulates Arjuna and he says, I'm very happy you have found out this problem. The solution is very simple. What is the solution? This solution is Abhyasa and Vairagya. Abhyasa is repeatedly thinking of the self, sitting down for this meditation repeatedly, or even otherwise trying to shift attention to the self. And Vairagya is reminding my mind of the limitations of everything else. Getting convinced about the futility of over-analyzing or getting carried away with anything other than the self. He said these two things, keep doing it over a period of time. And I found a very nice definition of Abhyasa and Vairagya in Bhagavan's book. Bhagavan says, Abhyasa is concentration on one thought. Concentration on one thought is Abhyasa. And what is Vairagya? He says absence of diffused thoughts. Vairagya is absence of diffused thoughts. Means one is a positive quality, another is a negative one. So in Abhyasa, we are trying to shift attention to the self. And Vairagya, we are trying to shift attention away from the not self. So Arjuna, this is the price we have to pay for taming the mind, disciplining the mind. Keep doing this self-enquiry. So with Bhagavan Krishna's grace, Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi's blessings, Puja Gurudev's grace and blessings, we strive to continue our study on this path and keep praying that may this knowledge open up slowly in our life. I invoke their grace and blessings on all of us. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Hari Om, everyone.
Pranam Swamiji. Thank you for enlightening us, comparing the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi's teachings. And always we have been very humble, and whenever we have called, you have readily agreed, and hope we will hear from you more and more, Swamiji.
Thank you, Mohanji. Always a joy. Hari Om.
Pranam, Swamiji.